Exclusive Pentagon testing mass surveillance balloons across the U.S. Up to 25 unmanned solar-powered balloons are being launched from rural South Dakota and drifting 250 miles through an area spanning portions of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Missouri, before concluding in central Illinois. Traveling in the stratosphere at altitudes of up to 65,000 ft, the balloons are intended to provide a persistent surveillance system to locate and deter narcotic trafficking and homeland security threats, according to a filing made on behalf of the Sierra Nevada Corporation, an aerospace and defense company. The balloons are carrying high-tech radars designed to simultaneously track many individual vehicles day or night, through any kind of weather. The tests. Arthur Holland Michel, the co-director of the Center for the Study of the Drone at Bard College in New York, said, "What this new technology proposes is to watch everything at once. Sometimes, the tests have been commissioned by the U.S. Southern Command Southcom, which is responsible for disaster response, intelligence operations, and security cooperation in the Caribbean, and Central and South America. Southcom is we do not think that American cities should be subject to wide area surveillance in which every vehicle could be tracked wherever they go," said Jay Stanley, a senior policy analyst at the American Civil Liberties Union. Even in tests, they're still collecting a lot of data on Americans who's driving to the Union House, the church, the mosque, the Alzheimer's clinic, he said. "We should not go down." For many years, Sierra Nevada has supplied Southcom with light aircraft packed with millions of dollars worth of sensors, which then flew over Mexico, Colombia, Panama, and the Caribbean Sea. But planes the new balloons promise a cheap surveillance platform that could follow multiple cars and boats for extended periods. And because neither Sierra Nevada nor U.S. Southcom responded to requests for comment on this story. However, the very nature of these balloons is that they can operate for weeks and months, said Ryan Hartman, the CEO of Worldview. The challenge is how Raven Aerostar, the company that is supplying the balloons for Southcom's tests and launching them from its facility in South Dakota, told The Guardian that it has had balloons remain aloft for nearly a month. Raven also makes the FCC documents show that Southcom's balloons are carrying small, satellite-like vehicles housing sophisticated sensors and communication gear. One of those sensors, the balloons, also have advanced mesh networking technologies that allow them to communicate with one another, share data, and pass it to receivers on the ground below. The FCC filing notes that this networking includes video information that suggests that, while Gorgon Stare is usually deployed on drones, Michel said that the U.S. Army has used tethered spy blimps in Afghanistan, and that U.S. Customs and Border Protection has experimented with low-altitude balloons along the Mexico border. But wide-area surveillance from stratospheric balloons is relatively new, said Michel. The higher the altitude of the system, the wider the area that you can cover. The trade-off is that it is unclear from the FCC documents whether Southcom's tests within the U.S. are linked to any active narcotic or counter-terrorism investigations. Also, we would like to know what they are doing with that data, how they are storing it, and whether they are contemplating deploying this in the U.S., said the ACLU's Stanley. Because, if the Southcom surveillance tests are likely just the tip of the iceberg. Scott Wickersham, Ryan Hartman said that Worldview had also completed a dozen surveillance test missions for a customer it would not name, capturing data he would not specify. Obviously, there are laws to protect people's privacy and we are respectful of all those laws, Hartman said. We also understand. Meanwhile, Worldview is currently preparing for its next surveillance flight, and Sierra Nevada's tests in the Midwest continue.
Raindrop, truck top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.